Hey everybody, Teresa Youngstrom here. Memory Care with Teresa Youngstrom. Hey, it's great to see you all here today. We have another exciting podcast for you and an amazing guest who brings just very wonderful gifts and talents to her community. And I think you're going to be impressed and excited by what all she has to offer. Very diverse background. And I actually met Rachel Hodesh, my guest for today. I met Rachel before she decided to start her business, which I'm real excited about. We met together in a coffee shop. So this is kind of going back with an old friend for me, and I know you'll be excited about the information we're going to share today. Let me tell you about Rachel. She's a master's prepared, dedicated over 30 years working with seniors, okay? She is a licensed nursing home administrator. She's a certified dementia practitioner, and she holds a certification in gerontology. So we kind of have the bases covered, right? Senior Life Care Consultants is her LLC, and it really is a culmination of her career. Rachel leads workshops on traveling with seniors, bullying, senior food insecurity, senior food insecurity, solo aging, being the conductor of your own care. And I've seen several of her presentations, always energetic, always full of new information for me. A highlight of her career is a TED Talk, The Ladies in the Laundry Room. And I think we'll put that link in the show notes because I want you to be able to get to that too. So Rachel's a proud mother of Noah and Aaron and Joey, her partner, Joey's 3 children, and to Joey's dog. She's a dog mom too, to Remy, Joey's dog. So without further ado, help me welcome Rachel Hodesh.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, Teresa. It's funny. I was just thinking about that coffee today and how nervous I was to meet you because I had heard so much about you and your connection to Teepa Snow and all of your incredible work. And that day I left invigorated and ready to really start my business. And it's really hard to believe it's been 8 years. I mean,
8 years? Has it been 8? Oh my goodness. Where
that
does
means
time
you've
go?
been that means you've been doing your magic for even longer. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for that extra boost that I needed. And of course, it's the 8 degrees of Ann Sutton Burke, right? It always goes back to Ann. So Thank you so much. Thank
exactly. She's awesome.
you.
So yeah,
Thank
and
you.
yeah, so that was a great day meeting you for coffee, and I'm thankful that encouraged you. It was a great meeting. I thought you were ready to go, absolutely ready to go.
Scary,
And
very
so
scary.
let me get to your questions though, because we have too much to talk about today. So, let's see, what inspired you though to become a life care manager? What inspired you to take that next step?
So it's an interesting journey. I tell the story very quickly. It happened after I left. I was with Cedar Village in Mason, Ohio for 12 years. And after I left there, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I received a phone call from a dear family friend. And he said, Mom and Dad need help and they need a care manager. And I go, what is that? And he's like, figure it out. And that's like the 50,000-foot story. And I went in and I met with them and I fell in love with the actual process of care management. And then I met with Anne and I met with professionals like yourself and I recognized that there are not many licensed nursing home administrators in this field. And so it enabled me to have a different look at the process for families that are going through this aging phenomenon, right? Like we see it, you see it from a nursing perspective and I see it from a nursing home perspective and from a care management perspective. And so I was able to really kind of go in and dissect it and I fell in love with it and just been doing it ever since. So
and really been fruitful, honestly. But how do you assess the needs of your clients? How do you go about that?
So it's an interesting process. I get phone calls, everything from, can you come and take Mom and Dad and help them find an apartment? To which I say, that's not me. To, can you just come and meet Mom and Dad and help us? Or can you meet my aunt or my family friend? And I started off with just care management. So that was 2017, just direct care management. I had no idea what to do. I joined the Aging Life Care Association, which is our national chapter. I took all their classes. And I just decided I was going to be a good old fashioned care manager. And I started meeting with people locally and I would just go in and assess and see what was going on and really carried it back to my nursing home days and my assisted living days when I would tour someone and I would see what they needed. And I based it on a lot of past care managers that I met and how they worked. And it's, at the end of the day, it's about relationships and connections.
Isn't it?
And what I would say to a family is that if this is not a good fit, we need to find someone else. So right away, if the family fit and we met, then we would go ahead and we would start that relationship and we would talk about what they needed. And you really become a connector. And it is a private pay business. So that also puts you at a different level, because when you're dealing with care management and money at that age, people don't want to always pay. So I learned to make care management about staying at home, staying better, making it not a chore, but something that you want to do, and know that it's okay to have a care manager and want to have a care manager. And the process could be anything from going in and having a one-time visit, an assessment, and recommending a home care company to going in and making an assessment and recommending a move transition company. I have 2 clients that I've had since I started my business still.
No kidding. That's incredible. Well, that's great. And you must do a great job, because you know that there are seasons of this decline as we get older. We have seasons,
Yes,
and
we do.
Some are able to manage at home. And I saw a statistic once that said 80% of us plan to never have to need, retirement community or nursing home, but probably 80% of us will end up there. So,
Wow.
you got to talk
That's
about
incredible. Yes, you do. You do. It is definitely something that none of us want to talk about. And even, our parents, for instance, as you were definitely a caregiver to your parents. And, as I have parents that are aging and I'm taking care, speaking with a lot of my parents' friends, my parents have yet to come to my table. So that is coming up. So yes, all of us are affected by it. And it's, at our age, it is definitely something that we're seeing. And our boomers are changing the landscape for how we age and what it looks like. So in a way, it kind of makes it more exciting because you can be really creative.
Yeah. And I would imagine you're seeing all kinds of people that are planning on staying at home and figuring that out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, as you know.
No, it is not easy. What factors do you consider when developing their care plan? So think of a client, and what factors do you have to consider?
That's a great question. I just completed an assessment last week for a family, and this was a very special woman. She has been in her community for over 50 years, and her church really, keeps her going. She has 3 wonderful children. And for me, the assessment was really about her and what surrounded her with her supports and what we could do to add to those support systems. So in her case, I looked at 3 factors: what she had, what she needed, and where she wanted to go. So in her case, she had the neighborhood supports. She had a wonderful foundation for her home. She needed to do a couple of things, and her children were ahead of the game, and really where she wanted to go. And when you're able to do that pre-planning ahead of time, and that is something I've started offering to families, assessment, just plain old fashioned assessment. When you're able to do that and have that book, it allows you to know that you have somewhere to go. So for instance, in this book, I gave her recommendations for senior centers. She's on the east side, so the Anderson Senior Center.
Right.
You're very familiar with it.
Yes.
Or communities over there. Things like that allow someone to say, okay, I can stay at home for a little while longer. Also, as you know, technology has become our saving grace.
Mm-hmm.
And though our seniors may not embrace it as much with support of their children and their grandchildren and their neighbors, it allows them to stay in just a little longer. And that is so important.
There's a lot of peace of mind that you give to people by helping them know their plan B. And I would always tell my clients, we always need to know our plan B. I know things are pretty great where she is right now at home with you guys. But same thing for my own mother. It was like, okay, so far this is working. And she was able to then stay at home. My dad's 92. We're on the journey again. And
Right.
so, but it's always good to know your plan B. And I can see you helping these individuals find that peace of knowing if somebody falls and breaks the hip tomorrow, we got a plan of where we're headed. That is so great. The adult children must love having you in their relationship with their parents.
Sometimes, Sometimes, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I am not a daughter, and I have colleagues that sell themselves as a surrogate child.
Okay.
And I am learning in my journey I am learning in my journey as a professional that I need to push myself onto families sometimes. I've always have kind of like this stay back feeling. I don't want to
You're a
get
very
too
kind
close.
person and you're very considerate too, just so you know.
And yeah, and so I don't want to step in too close, but I have learned, especially in this past year, I've learned some really strong lessons. And sometimes I have to step over the threshold and I have to say, hey, wait a minute, time out. Or I have to say to the child, no, you can't do that to your mother. You need
Right.
to ask her the
Good for
question,
you.
advocate for her. But it has been difficult for me because I have not wanted to um, do or say some of the things that I've had to. And most recently, I had to tell a child they needed to come in town.
Yeah.
And I had not been forceful with a child.
Good
And
for
I had
you.
to.
That's
It's
so
tough.
important.
It's tough.
Yeah, and I know exactly what you're saying because having worked with a lot of families over a lot of years, I can tell you that some were in agreement with my suggestions and some not so much. But and there were decisions they made sometimes that I thought, oh, okay, I wouldn't have done that. Like one family rushed in and she got a diagnosis. She was doing great. It was so early, and they whisked the car away. Oh, upset, ruffled the feathers. She called the police. So
Sure.
on her
Sure.
children. And we had to
Sure.
have a family meeting about that. And the best way to reconcile that was to bring the car back, apologize, tell her sorry, and
Right.
the boys disabled the car anyway. She really wasn't using it that much. And the kids were coming and taking her everywhere. It's just that they just did a knee-jerk reaction instead of pausing and maybe talking to Rachel Hodesh, on how we could do this in a more therapeutic way to maintain relationships with your mom at the same time. So,
And that's a really important point to bring up. And I think also for all of us as professionals, we do not know what goes on behind closed
we do
doors
not.
at all. And so I think sometimes I get kind of like this, I want to take a step forward, but I may like their father, but their father may have been a beast when they were children, or their mother may have been the nicest person, but they're nasty now. And so I say to myself, I have to be so gentle because there are some families that are not forthcoming at all, do not give me any information, and I fly by the seat of my pants. And since COVID, as you and I both know, everything has changed in our
Yep,
business.
absolutely
And
has.
so our sensitivity and our awareness and how we approach families and how we do things is 10 times more. It feels like it's more intrusive since then.
Yeah.
And I have recognized that I have to redo how I do everything.
Yeah.
And it
Because
can be
people are
very
definitely more
lonely
private.
sometimes. Yes. More private, so much more private. Definitely.
So interesting.
Definitely. Yeah.
Um,
It's
how do you communicate with clients and their families throughout this whole care process? And do sometimes you just meet with the adult kids? Sometimes you meet with the family members? See, in my situation, we have to decide where they are in their walk with dementia, but your clients don't all have dementia, so it's different. How do you communicate?
it used to be when I first started, the children would want me to just work for their parents. And I would say to them, no, 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 no. That's not how it works. I'm working for you. You've called me, you've hired me, but they would push me into work for their parents. Now, 90% of the communication is with the child, and my relationship is with the parent.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I communicate with the child. I update them on the staffing or the doctor's appointment or how things are going. But that face-to-face, that one-on-one, that hug, that checking in, that's with my client. And that is where the work comes in.
Sure.
Talking to the child, getting that trust, that's the initial first 30 days. And that is really difficult. That's texting, it's calling. I am available to my clients 24 hours a day. They know that they can call me 24/7. But it's gaining the trust of the senior that could take sometimes months.
Gotcha.
Months. I had one client took me 2 years. So she
Wow.
really trusted me. And now I've been with her for 6.5. And she likes me now, I think. But A lot of it is honestly, I really believe not the child, I apologize. The client, the senior doesn't understand why their children don't have enough time for that.
Gotcha.
And so why are you here? Why is my child not here? Well, your child is still working.
Yeah.
If they're a baby boomer, where they travel and they want to make sure that there's an extra set of support.
Sure.
And that's really where I come in. And usually the client is not happy about it. And so it's a difficult job.
It is. That relationship, it's just absolutely key. So how do you advocate for your clients' needs within, say, the healthcare system?
The healthcare system does not understand what I do. The healthcare system does not understand care management.
I'm not sure it understands what I do.
They don't. And I have colleagues that ask me what I do. And so almost 8 years later, I do not have the perfected elevator speech. So I've just finally come down to, I am an advocate for seniors, and the rest you can figure out. Healthcare systems don't like me. Hospitals definitely don't like me, because I have no filter, and I will press that button and I will stand at the nurse's station until that senior gets what they want.
Yeah.
I understand now what is right and what is wrong. Good. And where our seniors should be, and where our seniors should be getting the care that they need.
Right.
Again, COVID changed everything, and COVID slowed down things, and COVID shifted employment. So how does our healthcare system look at people like myself? They don't want me there.
No.
They want the family member at home, and they want to be able to go in and treat the senior, give them what they need, and put them to bed.
And I'm telling the adult children, somebody needs to be at the bedside 24/7 if they can't think clearly. Somebody has to be at the bedside. So, so I want visitors in the room. They need an advocate.
I actually had to call a hospital advocate for a client last March. It was so embarrassing. And when the hospital advocate came in, they said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm the family advocate." And she said, "I have never, while a client is still in the hospital, had myself called in." I go, "It's a shame."
Yeah, it is, because it's needed. Very needed. Well, we're going to keep working on transitioning this back into a good place.
We need to.
We have to. Let's see. Can you provide an example of a time you successfully you kind of did that. Successfully advocated for clients' needs, and that's when you went to the nurse's station and hung in there.
Or called the hospital advocate while that's...
that would be definitely
it's a big
successful moment. Let's look at some challenges. So what are the common challenges you face, besides the fact that you're looked upon as a squeaky wheel, someone who's just ruffling the feathers here?
I'm alone. I'm a solo practitioner. Mm-hmm. I would say that's my toughest.
Okay.
It's very lonely, and you know that. It is extremely lonely. I've made the choice to be a solo practitioner. I'm an eldest child. I worked with people for 30 years, and I kind of do my own thing. And I have thought a million times to bring in other people, but I have these expectations that I want things done a certain way, and I want my clients and families to feel that. And I am sure there are 10 other Rachel Hodeshes out there. They're just maybe not in Cincinnati, or they just don't want to put up with me. That is very hard. So
I understand that.
I know you do. Yeah. And that's why I can say that.
Yeah.
That is a challenge. I think also there are not enough of us in this city, in this state.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many seniors in need, and there are not enough advocates or care managers to meet that need. And people say, "Well, what do you mean there aren't enough?" And it's just what I say. For me, I have 12 families right now that I'm working with, and I could take on 12 more.
Right.
It
plus,
never ends.
Isn't it true? I had 7 siblings, and only one or two really moved away. But, my children, they move away. And, and so we've watched this kind of generational shift where I'm finding more seniors are home now in a state where they don't have a child for, several hours away. And that's become really tough.
It is. I have a wonderful client. Her son is now working in Miami 6 months out of the year. And then he travels. And so I am that person that's in.
Yeah.
When they're in town, they're there, but the other son lives out of state. I have another client that one child lives in California, one child's here, but they're running the family business. It's not to say that they are not involved, but if you also have a mother that's still alive and the mother is aging, this becomes a lot. And so care management becomes that extra conduit of care for the families. And honestly, anyone can afford care management if you understand how it works and if you're willing to just make that phone call. And it's so important to have, even if it's just one time, even if it's twice a year, having that person to bounce things off of.
I agree 100%. Do you ever have to communicate with Zoom because you've got family members all over the United States?
During COVID, it was pretty much all Zoom. And yes, I do have some Zoom meetings. Thankfully now a lot of it is just maybe phone calls or text.
Good.
I try to encourage families to do Zoom, but usually it's just phone calls or text right now.
Okay.
And it's face-to-face.
Okay, good. So that you've got great communication there. How do you handle those difficult situations like a conflict with a family member and the healthcare providers?
It's tough. Thankfully, I've had a lot of coaching over the years. And what is Chief of Snow? What do you say? Give us a timeout.
Yeah.
The conflicts with the family, I usually set those boundaries ahead of time.
Good.
And I make sure to know who is there. Doesn't matter. There's always a chief in the family, and then there's a junior chief, and then there's a chief of the junior chief of the chiefs. So I recognize that ahead of time, and I always ask the family when I've started, and this is something I've learned, who's in charge? Who do I go to? And then again, I reiterate that 6 months in.
Yeah.
If there's a healthcare issue, I say to the family in advance, am I handling this? Yeah. Are you handling this?
Good communication. Yeah, I like that.
Because I'm not going to go in, and this happened to me the other day where a family member said to me, why did you do that? And I said, because you're in New York and I'm in Cincinnati. And I had to ask the question because you weren't here to ask the question. And the family member paused and they go, okay. They said, that makes sense. We did send you there to ask the question.
Good.
So, I believe so much of our work is passionate and emotional and frightening, right? Like it's a guilt-ridden thing. As
really
a Jewish woman, Jewish guilt times a million, right? Catholic guilt times a million. So, oh my goodness gracious, like you just have no clue. And that's what I have to say to myself. These families feel guilty.
Yes.
They're sad. They feel helpless. And it's my job to try and just say, it's going to be okay. And if it's not going to be okay, then we'll figure out a solution.
Yeah, then go to your plan B. B.
Yes.
So what resources or support systems do you recommend to families caring for their elderly or maybe disabled individuals? I'm sure you care for them too.
Yes, I try to only keep one at a time, and I would love to have you clarify disabled right now. I have one client I've had for 5 years who has mental health issues, and I try to only keep one because, as we know, that can be a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I don't say that negatively. I say that because I want to be able to give that person my full attention. Ask the question again.
Disabilities. You asked me to define disabilities. Disabilities. That word encompasses so much because is it like you said? Is it mental health? Is it physical disabilities? Is it a genetic thing they were born with? Is it cerebral palsy? Is that their disability? So that's just that topic, just the whole.
So
question.
I think for resources, it's pretty. I think for me, like everyone always says, counsel on aging, blah blah blah. I really try to get to the nitty-gritty of where they are. So if it's someone that has neurological issues, I really try to find out what those issues are. If it's Parkinson's, we really break down to, am I going to send you to Caitlin Fattori? Am I going to send you to Angela Anyakani? I mean, are we going to go to Fox Rehab for their cognitive thing? Am I going to send them to you for an assessment? It really comes down to, what they need. Are they going to go to Alzheimer's Association or Giving Voice? as I give plugs for all of these wonderful groups.
We are
like,
blessed with a lot of groups. We really are.
Yes.
Blessed.
You know, those, and that's really how my brain works. It's just like, where do I go? What do I do? But it's about fit. And it's about, honestly, I got to be truthful. Who's going to return the phone call?
That's right.
Because these families need, and I know who will. Like, I know that if I give them certain people, they're going to call them back. They're going to be there, and they're going to make sure that these families have the love and support they need. And they're not going to waste their time.
Right. Right. Well, good. I think you're just a wealth of knowledge, though, over those resources. Let's see. If we go down to future trends, how do you see the role of life care managers evolving in the next few years?
So I've been thinking a lot about this for myself. You know, one of the things I've been looking at is solo aging. We're all solo agers, whether our children are out of town or we don't have children. My mother's childhood best friend, who I cared for several years during COVID, had no children. So my brother and I were her kids, but she was a true solo ager and she had no plan.
Right.
So I'm really looking at this topic of how do we advocate for solo agers and how do we work with them? Another trend that's happening a lot with life care managers is this Zoom, this reaching out, being anywhere in the country. Just because I'm in Cincinnati and you're in California and your mother's in Cincinnati, I can still give you counseling. I can still work with you.
I agree.
So that's a big trend too right now, is like making yourself accessible to someone wherever they are in the world, which again, and I know I'm a broken record, it came out during COVID, right? So I think that accessibility to families. Another trend that I'm seeing is EAPs are referring families to geriatric care managers.
Okay, good.
Which is huge. And I work with a few EAPs and I get probably 3 or 4 referrals a year.
You might need to clarify what an EAP is for people in the audience.
Employee assistance programs. So major corporations, if someone comes to their human resources person and says, I think I need to take some time off, my mom or dad is not doing well, their employee assistance program will say, let's get a geriatric care manager to assess your mom or dad. And I may get a phone call and they'll say, would you please go out and assess this person for this person, this loved one for this person?
What a great referral for you. That's cool.
You know, I've not gotten any follow-up because, you know, obviously it's no cost to them. But what it does is it opens that family's eyes to all the resources in their city.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, oh boy, you just talk to some families, they haven't prepared at all.
No, they're not.
That season of maybe having to be the care partner for their parents.
The biggest thing I've seen lately is people are not doing their pre-need planning.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Pre-need planning has taken a backdoor again.
It's all crazy. Yeah.
I know.
We need more classes on that. That's for sure.
Yes, I think so.
So can you share a success story from your experiences that illustrates the impact and effectiveness of your care management? You could probably share 100 stories.
No, this is my success story. This is without a doubt. Let's see. December of 2019, I have a coach, and my coach referred a woman to me, and she said, my sister is bipolar schizophrenic, and I need your help. And at the time, I had just passed on another client, and I said, no problem. And so I met this woman, and I went in to see her. She was in Price Hill in senior housing, pretty rough, but that's my old stomping grounds. I love those things, so I didn't care. So I go in and I meet her and I introduce myself, and let's call her Molly. I say, hi, Molly, I'm Rachel, blah, blah, blah. And she says, I don't like you. And I go, well, that's fine. I go, let me just get a little bit of information on you. I have to leave with something so I can at least close the file. Talk for a couple minutes. And I go, what is your date of birth? And she said, July 9th, 1961. And I go, well, at least we'll be friends forever. And she goes, what do you mean? I go, my birthday is July 9th, 1971. And she looked at her sister and she goes, she's hired.
Found the connector.
And we have been best friends ever since. She's been to
Goodness.
my house for Hanukkah. My son is her driver. I most likely will become her guardian, though professionally I said I would never be a guardian. She has since moved out of public housing and is now living at 7 acres in
Really?
Clifton
Wow.
in independent living. She has just, I mean, I could cry. Like, her whole world has transformed. She went from being a complete recluse, and when I met her, she was self-admitting into a geriatric psych unit, and knock wood, no more.
That's
And what
incredible.
this woman showed me is if I could take myself out of my comfort zone and really open myself up and say, hey, I can do this. And I've learned a lot from her. And we also went through COVID together. We made the decision that we were going to, COVID together so that she wouldn't be locked in. So we did everything together during COVID. She was one of
Nice.
my 2 clients that I kept during COVID.
Nice.
That would go out.
I'd had to be
That
very
woman is my
special for her.
success story. She is just a part of the family. Like, everyone knows her.
That is it.
And I know it's a violation of every single ethics. And I'm sorry, Alka, I have violated every single ethics there is, but there is something to be said when you are able to make such a connection with someone who literally has had no one and has been lost in the system and now is flourishing and is trusting and went from living in public housing for almost 27 years to living independently in an apartment and her whole life.
And she has a lot of life in front of her. She's just in her 60s.
Yeah, she is. And we celebrate our birthday together every year, no matter where I am. If I'm getting off a plane, I go directly to her house and we have Subway and ice cream every year together. We never miss a birthday.
My gosh, that is a great story. I love that. Well,
That's me.
I just probably believe that there are a lot of success stories like that because of your heart and the way you're willing to get involved and help people, even when the going gets tough. I know Rachel will hang in there and do the right thing. That's just who you are. And I knew that when I first met you. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, for sharing your story. And
thank you. And thank you. And thank you, Teresa, for all you do for all of us and keep us moving. And you're wonderful too.
Well, thank you. You are welcome. And I want to make sure we get the links to your TED Talk and everything for my show notes. You'll have to send that to me. That is just really important. Thank you so much.
Yes, that was very important.
Griffo Productions for today. We appreciate our broadcaster very much. I hope that you'll like and share and subscribe so that we can keep getting great information out to, the 4 corners of the world and beyond. There are a lot of people hurting out there, and people like Rachel Hodesh, you know what? She cares, and she would care for your family too. So I hope that you'll contact her. Please find her contact information in the show notes. And again, I just want to remind you all that you got this.